As of Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, there are only 9 Pokémon type combinations that are unused. But how did we get here? In this video, we're going to take a look at every time a new Pokémon came out with an unused type combination. Starting with Generation 1, we'll take a look at some monotype usages. And just a reminder, there's no Dark, Steel, or Fairy type yet, so those won't be showing up. You could probably guess that Pure Water is the most common of these monotypes, and then you could probably also guess that Pure Normal is in second place for that. From there, we've got a tie for third between Pure Poison, and then Fire, which only has 2 type combinations at all in this generation. After that, Pure Fighting has several usages, which makes me wonder why Bruno uses 2 Onix on his team. Pure Psychic ties with Fighting in terms of representation thanks to Mew and Mewtwo, and then Pure Ground comes up next, followed by a type that can't affect it, Electric. Finally, there's only a few Pure Bugs, a couple Pure Dragon types, and then only 1 Pure Grass type, being Tangela. Next, we can look at the Flying type to knock out a bunch more combinations. It's paired with Normal to make up just about every generic bird from the generation, Fire to give you the Flightless Charizard and Legendary Moltres, Bug on Butterfree but also Scyther, which I always forget about, Poison on the Golbat line, which will stay a type combination unique to this evolutionary line for the entire franchise, Water, specifically on Gyarados, who's another Flightless Pokemon, Rock on Aerodactyl, Ice on Articuno, Electric on Zapdos, then finally Dragonite gives us the Flying Dragon typing. The next most popular type to combine with is Water, which pairs further with Fighting on Poliwrath, Poison uniquely on the Tentacool line, Psychic with the Slowpoke line and Starmie, but not Staryu, sorry little man, Ice with Dugong, Cloyster, and Lapras, all used on Lorelei's team, good job Lorelei, and Rock on the Fossils to finish out the type. Then there's Poison, which pairs with Grass, Bug to give us Venomoth and Beedrill, Ground on Nidoking and Nidoqueen, who remain the only Poison Ground-type Pokemon until Generation 9, and then Ghost for the Gengar line, which remains a unique typing up until the very end of the Pokedex with Pecharunt. Then, in no particular order, Rock Ground was pretty common despite the double 4x weaknesses it had, Bug Grass was unique to the Parasect line, Grass Psychic on the Exeggutor line, and Ice Psychic on Jinx brings us to our Generation 1 total of 33 type combinations. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, feel free to subscribe or now join as a channel member. That's right, you can get custom little badges and emojis of some of my favorite Pokemon, like Darmanitan, who's my favorite. I think it's the eyebrows. If you're already subscribed, thanks so much. I really could not have made it this far without every one of you. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Moving into Johto, we can now look at the new types Steel and Dark. Steel gets paired with Electric on Magnemite and Magneton, Bug on Forretress and Scizor, the Ground type on Steelix, and then Flying on Skarmory, only ever to be shared with Celesteela and Corviknight. Dark also pairs with Flying on Murkrow, Ice with Sneasel, which is another type that's unique until Gen 9, Fire with Houndour and Houndoom, and Rock with Tyranitar, which is still unique to this day. Dark also gets a monotype usage on Umbreon, and while Steel doesn't, Rock does on Sudowoodo, and Ghost does on Misdreavus. In addition to Steel Flying and Dark Flying, we've got Psychic Flying on the Xatu line, but also Lugia, Grass Flying on the Jumpluff line, and Ground Flying on Gligar. From there, Water gets 3 new usages, first with Water Electric on the Lantern line, then there's Water Ground on the Wooper line, but this becomes a much more popular type later on, and then Kingdra becomes the first Water Dragon type, which is a club that Gyarados can only dream to one day be a part of. Rock gets used in 2 combinations other than its monotype, with Bug on Shuckle, and then with Fire on Magcargo. Bug Fighting gets added to Heracross, Ice Ground comes out on the Swinub line, a combo that's still unique to this day, and then Normal Psychic exists on Girafarig, giving it the Ghost immunity it so rightly deserves. Now we're in Generation 3 with Ruby and Sapphire. Interestingly, there are no new type combinations for the Normal type. Gen 3 is actually the only generation that doesn't have one of these, so stay tuned for more of them moving forward. However, Psychic gets a ton of new combinations this time. It pairs with Fighting on the Medicham line, Rock with Solrock and Lunatone, Ground with the Claydol line, Steel with the Metagross line, and then Dragon with Latias and Latios. From there, Ground and Grass receive the next most new type combinations. We already talked about the Claydol line, but Ground also pairs with Fire on the Camerupt line, Dragon with the Flygon line, and then Bug on Nincada. Grass now pairs with Dark, Fighting on Breloom, Water with the Ludicolo line, and then Rock on the Cradily line. Bug gets a couple of new typings, the aforementioned Bug Ground on Nincada, but then also Bug Ghost on its evolution, Shedinja. There's also Surskit repping the Bug Water type. Fire gets another usage in its addition to its combination with Ground, the notorious Fire and Fighting type, which is unique to Combusken and Blaziken right now, but we'll check in on that later. Ice and Steel both get monotype usages, with Ice on Regice, Castform, and the Glalie line, and Steel being used between Mawile and Registeel. This leaves Flying as the only type that isn't used as a monotype. We also previously mentioned Steel getting paired with Psychic, but it does also get a new combination with Rock on the Aggron line. Lastly, we'll look at Dark, which we already mentioned pairing with Grass, but then it gets a new pairing with Water, and then a unique pairing of Dark and Ghost on Sableye. Welcome to Generation 4. Do you like normal types? Because we have a new one here. That's right, Bibarel adds Water to the list of types that pair with Normal. There's a lot of debate as to whether or not we really need type combinations with Normal, since it doesn't really help most types it pairs with. But I personally think they're really silly, and I just kinda like them, so keep them coming, Game Freak. But speaking of Water, it's now paired with Steel on Empoleon, and then Torterra also gives Grass a new typing with Ground. Grass also then gets paired with Ice on the Abomasnow line. From there, the Ghost type gets a few new type combinations in this generation. The Driftblim line gives us Ghost Flying, Frostlass gives us Ghost Ice, Giratina gives us a new typing of Ghost Dragon, and that will stay only on Giratina until Gen 8. Rotom gives us Ghost Electric, and just a reminder, Rotom's appliance forms are all still typed as Ghost Electric in Gen 4. It's true, look it up. Dialga kicks off the Steel type with new combos, giving us Steel Dragon, while Heatran gives us Steel Fire, and then Lucario gives us Steel Fighting. Then finally Poison gets two new pairings, first with Dark on the Skuntank line and Drapion, and then with Fighting, unique to the Toxicroak line. I will also just mention that Arceus can technically be of any type, but come on, that doesn't count. Now moving on to Gen 5, we've got a whopping 156 new Pokemon to talk about. But first, we should revisit Rotom since its appliance forms now have new typings. All of them are of course part electric, but Rotom Heat now makes electric pair with Fire, Rotom Frost with Ice, and Rotom Mow with Grass. From there, electric also pairs with Ground on Stunfisk, Bug on the Galvantula line, and Dragon on Zekrom. Dragon itself then gets a bunch of new usages in addition to Dragon Electric, like Dragon Fire on Reshiram, Dragon Ice on Kyurem, and Dragon Dark on the Hydreigon line. Next, let's go back to the Fire type, which in addition to Fire Electric and Fire Dragon, gets some new combinations with Bug on the Volcarona line, Ghost uniquely on the Chandelure line, and then with Psychic between Victini and Darmanitan Zen. But we won't have to wait too long before we get a fully fledged entry for that typing. There's still a lot of new combos left over, so let's take a look at Dark to knock out Dark Ground, being used on the Crocodile line, Dark Fighting on the Scrafty line, and Dark Steel on the Bisharp line, which is still the only Dark Steel line, by the way. The Ghost type gets some new usages with the aforementioned Ghost Fire, but also gets Ghost Water on the Jellicent line and Ghost Ground on the Golurk line. Then we've got some new normal combos, being paired with Grass on the Sawsbuck line, and Fighting on Meloetta's Pirouette form. Grass Steel is now on the Ferrothorn line, Rock Fighting is new to Terrakion, and Flying finally gets its monotype usage on Tornadus, which now means that every type has a monotype usage, except for one that's coming up next. Moving on to Gen 6, we obviously have the new Fairy type, which was retrofitted to quite a few types. Fairy enters the fray, seeing itself typed with Fairy, Normal on the Jigglypuff line, but also Azurill, Psychic with the Gardevoir and Mr. Mime lines, Steel with Mawile, but also on the new Pokemon Klefki, Rock on Carbink and Diancie, Flying on Togetic and Togekiss, Water on Marill and Azumarill, Grass on the Whimsicott line, and Electric on Dedenne. Normal gets three other new combinations in this generation, those being Normal Ground on Diggersby, Normal Electric on the Heliolisk line, and Normal Fire on the Pyroar line. Then you get a few new ones on Dragon, those being Dragon Poison with Dragalge, and Dragon Rock with the Tyrantrum line. The other fossil line, Amora and Aurorus, introduced the Rock Ice typing for the first time as well. Ghost gets three new usages, those being Ghost Grass, Ghost Steel on the famous Aegislash line, and Ghost Psychic on Hoopa's normal form. Then lastly, in no particular order, we've got Dark Psychic on the Malamar line and Hoopa's Unbound form, Fighting Flying on Hawlucha, and Fire Water on Volcanion, where it remains to this day. But of course we still have Mega Evolutions, which account for two new type combos. Mega Sceptile gives Grass Dragon its first usage, and Mega Altaria does the same thing for Dragon Fairy. This rounds us out at 133 type combos used. Now that we're in Gen 7, the amount of types left over is getting pretty small. First off, Normal gets paired with Dark on the Alolan Raticate line, and Dragon, which if you asked me in 2016, I would have probably guessed would be the last pairing that Normal would get, but Grandpa's pretty cool regardless. Dragon also gets paired with Fighting on the Kommo-o line, Fighting then gets paired with Ice on Crabominable, and Ghost on Marshadow. Fairy gets a few new usages, such as Bug Fairy on the Brabombi line, Ghost Fairy on Mimikyu, and Ice Fairy on Alolan Ninetales. Ice continues to get usages with Steel on Alolan Sandslash, and then Alolan Raichu gives us Electric Psychic, while Alolan Golem gives us Electric Rock. Rock is then paired with Poison for the first time on the Ultra Beast Nihilego, but we'll see that type combo come back in Gen 9. And then lastly, Poison gets paired with Fire on the Salazzle. Generation 8 comes in with another 9 type combos, with 3 of them using the Poison type. Poison pairs with Electric on the Toxtricity line, Psychic with Galarian Slowbro and Slowking, and then Fairy on Galarian Weezing. Fairy also gets another pair with Dark for the first time on the Grimmsnarl family, and then Dark gets paired with Electric for the first time on Morpeko. We get 2 new Bug typings, Bug Psychic with Dottler and Orbeetle, and Bug Ice with Snom and Frostmoth. And Ice finally gets paired with Fire on Galarian, Zen, and Darmanitan. But since that means that the type combo is only available on an in-battle form of a regional variant, I kind of hope we get another one. Legends Arceus was also in Gen 8, but it brought us just 1 new type combo, which was a good one, Normal Ghost, on the Hisuian Zoroark line. When Scarlet and Violet came out, there were 16 types left unused, and the game ended up using about half of those, giving us 7 new combinations. Starting off with the normal type, the Grafaiai line reps normal Poison, and I think it does it pretty well. Certain shrews and monkeys are some of the only venomous mammals, so I think they fit the type combination great. Poison is also paired with Steel for the first time on the Revavroom line, and that doesn't make me worry about climate change at all. Fighting gets 3 new usages, first on Electric with the Pawmot line and Iron Hands, and Ground specifically on Great Tusk, and then Fairy on Iron Valiant. From there, Bug and Dark gets used on Lokix for the first time, and Grass Fire finally gets used after all of these years on Scovillain, which is a perfect idea for a Grass Fire Pokemon being based on Peppers, only to be immediately outclassed by Ogerpon with the Hearthflame mask. So with that, we only have 9 type combos left unused. If this topic interests you, you might like my other video where I talk about some Pokemon fan types and then make up 3 of my own. And as always, if you liked the video, feel free to like, subscribe, or join as a channel member, and I'll see y'all in the next one.